Here we are. We are live. What an amazing time we're living. It's a time when people are stopping to pause and reflect. It's a time when families have probably never spent so much time together ever.
Yeah.
So, welcome from Becky Norwood at Spotlight Publishing, and this is Penelope Tzougros, and she is an author of several books, and she works very much in the financial field to give especially seniors some really new light and some fresh light on looking at where they are. It couldn't be at a more apt time as this, when all of us are really concerned on what's going on in our world. So Penelope, tell us what your work in the world is today.
I help people think about their money so they can make better choices. And I was a professor for many years, so it's very important to me that people understand, that they don't just ask, but they understand.
Very. So, you have written a course that's called the Retiree's Guide for the Stay Move Decision.
Yeah.
Tell us about that and why it's important, especially now.
I'm excited about that, and I think the fact that people are at home so much now may make the course even more valuable, because what's happening is they're in the house and they can begin to see, oh yeah, this needs to be fixed and that needs to be done. And if I were sick and I were going to have somebody come in the house to take care of me, would I really manage being cooped up in this place day in and day out? Because a lot of us, we're in Boston, we're at stay-at-home instructions. So it teaches you something about what the house is to you, how it can function in hard times. So that's why the course follows up the book, but the course is helping people understand that issue.
It's an important issue, and I know my parents are in their mid-80s, and there's always the cause for concern because they live far away from me. Mm-hmm. And I feel sometimes so incapable of helping them the way I would like to see that happen. Yeah. So in today's world, what is your suggestion for somebody that for so many that have stay-at-home orders now, which changes? And I know so many of the older people, even in my neighborhood, are saying, wow, this is kind of lonely, for me, I work from home all the time, but I'm so busy, I never think about alone.
That's right. For those of us who do a lot of brain work anyway and are in front of our computers so many hours, it's a little those people who are out and about so much. Right. So I think that for people who are thinking about retiring, are retired, or like your folks, what happens is the isolation. The reason I brought up the example of being at home and realizing what it must be like if you never got to go out of the house, or rarely, except for a doctor's appointment. What would it be like? What would your life be? And when you bring in workers to take care of you 24/7, doesn't that focus on your being sick? Whereas if you were in a continuing care retirement community, where you could go in healthy, maybe if something happens and you needed more care, you could get it. But you would be around people all day. And those people are trained to help you have activities that are appropriate. Mm-hmm. One of the horrible things for aging is isolation. And you know what? They won't talk about that because it's shameful. So someone won't tell you I'm lonely. They'll tell you lots of other things. They won't tell you that.
Right. So that is a very common problem. And for some reason, there's many of my neighbors that are just people living alone, totally alone. And some stay holed up all the time, and others are out, going as many places and walking up and down the street doing what they can because they are still able to. And that's beautiful. Right. So I didn't properly introduce you. I meant to read your bio. Penelope has served as a professor at Northeastern University in Boston and Hellenic College, where she was also acting dean. She developed her own radio program for 7 years and produced and directed Money Makeover, a television show. Mm-hmm. She also cooked for her cast and crew. How fascinating. That was the easy part, since she loves to entertain, create delicious food for her family and friends. She is happy to exchange recipes with you. So when we get done with this broadcast, you can, even if you're listening and you want to know her contact information, we'll make sure we type it in the stream over here. She's based in Boston, but she's traveled across the U.S. as a guest on television and radio shows talking about personal finance issues. And her books, Wealthy Choices, The 7 Competencies of Financial Success, Long-Term Care Insurance, How to Make Decisions that are Right for You, and Your Home Sweet Home, How to Decide Whether You Should Stay or Move in Retirement. She's just launching the online course, The Retiree's Guide for the Stay Move Decision.
Thank you.
You're very accomplished. You're a pretty amazing woman.
Thank you. I think the business you have is wonderful because you really are supportive of authors, and all of us need you to help us do all those many pieces. There are a lot of pieces to getting a book out, a lot.
Oh my goodness. And, for the average person, they have no idea how much work that is involved in just the back end of it, and also the marketing that goes into making it really successful. Because I really say that anybody can write a book and even get it published, but it's a whole nother can of worms kind of to understand the whole marketing and branding and everything that needs to be done to where that book stays in the limelight. Because in today's world, it's very busy and it's very noisy, and there's a lot to captivate our interest going other ways.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what would you say as far as the wealthy choices, the competencies, what are the 7 competencies of financial success?
One of the ones that you wouldn't guess, you would guess budgeting. You would guess thinking about how you grow your assets. But what is unique about that book is it has a chapter on gifting as a competency, because gifting is the thing that we do to make connection with someone else.
Right.
It's to get us out of our silo ourselves. And it is a very imaginative effort. When you try to give something that really hits the spot, that makes somebody say, oh, you did understand, or you appreciated what my interests are. That makes a kind of human connection that is the most important part, I think, of the 7 competencies, because the others are perfectly understandable about budgeting and growing and handling the losses. There's a whole chapter on loss, how to deal with loss as a competency. So if in this period of loss, you're running away, or you're saying, I'm going to sell everything, I'm getting out of this. Well, no, that's not thoughtful. That's not going to help you in the long run. You need to understand loss, because we've all had losses, both emotional and financial, and you need to have a perspective on it and to understand what you're doing. So the things that I do in that book are anecdotes. They're little short stories, little stories that people came to me over the years and said, this is what I'm dealing with. A kid who had a bunch of parking tickets that he was trying to hide from his father. His father was going to take away the car if he got any more parking tickets. So they're very, very human stories. And that's the way I was trying to teach. All the things you get in regular books about finance, but this is all story told.
Well, and that's the value of a book written in that way, is if you can incorporate the stories, that's what brings your wisdom to life, because the storytelling is what makes it relatable and helps us to understand that the action steps that we need to take to make a difference. But without the storytelling, facts and figures is rather boring,
Impact. You're right.
Right. It doesn't make the impact. Wow. So, we're facing a global change on our earth right now. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are really facing a different perspective on life. What would you say to somebody that you felt that was kind of just struggling at this point to figure out who they are, what they're supposed to do with their lives at a time when, even no matter what age we are, we're being asked to stay put and not get out and socialize. I know a lot of us that run businesses, we're doing everything virtually and we're just kind of like going with the flow. But if that hasn't been the case before now, what would you suggest?
Since one of the things that people are used to working with is their money, and right now a lot of people are in jeopardy of not having money until the the resolution of that money comes in from the federal government. We start with what I call a zero-up budget, zero-up budget. By that I mean, if you have money, your regular paycheck, any amount of money, even the $1,200 that some people are going to receive, what is the single most important thing you have to do with that money? Put that on the bottom of the list of the zero-up budget. So you start at zero, that's the first money you have to spend. What's the next most important money that you have to spend? And keep going up until you've used up whatever the paycheck or that dollar amount is. So you've gone from zero up to whatever it is. What you've done is you've rethought your values. So you start to say, is it really important that I get another pair of shoes, that I get another pair of dungarees, jeans, what do we call them now? Yeah, it shows,
Riches.
it shows my framework. And then you say to yourself, is that more important than something else in my life? Is it more important than this other thing? If I have a family and I have no life insurance, am I right to be spending money on a trip to Disneyland? What's important? What are the values you have? I think if people use this time to think about how they have spent their money, because if you tell me how you spend your money, I'll tell you who you are, because your money is a direct link into your value system. So that's correct. People that have time to think about what you're doing. You have time to correct it. You have time to realize that you're a bigger person than any of those things you've been doing. And a lot of them may have only been directed by the herd, by the people you're around. They weren't your choices, but everybody else was doing it, and we're social, we like to be accepted in groups. But be careful. It's your life. You only got one of them, as far as we know.
At least in this right now, in the present.
As our understanding is. So a zero-up budget exercise can do something. And then if you did it in the family and started not yelling, but debating, why do you think it's more important for us to spend money on this? What does it mean to you? What are your values? How can we accommodate? Maybe the two of us have a different opinion. Not yelling, not threatening, and not anything, but thinking about who are we individually, who are we as a unit. Even the kids can get involved in that. And you can say, okay, this is an allowance that you're going to have. What do you want to do with it? What's important? We don't take the time. And as you said, right now, many of us have enforced time and are with our families in a way that we have not been before. Right. So ask the stories. Find out if somebody needs to spend money on, say, baseball tickets. And that's one of the stories in the book. Mary and Jim are having a fight because he spent $130 on baseball tickets. And Mary says to him, how could you have done that? Well, the real question isn't screaming at him because he did it, but asking him, what does that mean? Are you hungry for your youth? Is it because you were great in high school and baseball? Did you miss a friend? What's it about? Be sympathetic for somebody else's needs. Understand where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's those connections that keep that spark. So there has to become a balance where it works too, so that you don't just sit at home and that's all you do,
right?
And because it's not healthy either,
right? And not have a better argument than I to do it.
Right.
That will work.
So are your books on Amazon?
Yes, they are. I think Wealthy Choices is in for a second edition because I think it's completely sold out. The long-term care is not. The long-term care book came about because my mom was 13 years in a nursing home with dementia.
Wow. I'm going to put in the chat here both your name and your email so they can look up your books. And normally I would have already got the links and put them in here. This is a new system I'm using, and I'm learning it. And it's kind of a fun system. But honestly, for some reason, with things that are what's going on in our world, I'm busier now than I've been in my entire life because people are having the time to do what they, to write those books they've been always saying they want to do. So it's kind of an interesting time. So I normally so prepared, and today I'm like, oh my God, it's already this time.
How did you get into the work that you do?
With the last change in the economy in 2007, things were changing. I had been a single mom for 20 years. I had run our family saw blade sharpening business, and did that, raised my kids on my own, and did very, very well, homeschooled them as well. It just really, just was quite a time. And then when the economy changed, all the clients that I had, kind of all those businesses could not withstand. And so they were making huge changes and either combining with other big steel mill plants in other parts of the country where just to keep them afloat until the economy came back. And so my income went like that. And so I was on the search for, okay, what do I do? And I was watching and noticing that a lot of people in business were losing their homes, their businesses. And I wasn't the only one that was kind of feeling the crunch. So I did a lot of research and found that there were other ways, because the computers are becoming more popular, the cell phones, everything was so new to us, but becoming very available. And learning better ways to communicate and share and use the online world to grow business. And so I started learning those tactics. And my trainer, his name is Mike Koenigs. He taught it how to do these kind of things, and he started talking about publishing, and that started a whole new world for me.
You.
So I always ask the question, what am I going to do when I grow up? I don't know.
Plenty of time.
Yeah. So it's been a pleasure to have you. Is there any parting thoughts that you want to share with anybody that might be listening? We've got a few people that are listening right now.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to encourage people to think about the house as a wonderful place, but maybe not the place for all of their retirement. And to think about that sooner. There are a couple of things you absolutely need to know. And that's part of what the course and the book do, which is to say, do you understand really what it costs to run this place? Do you really know all of what it costs to run your life? And is the house going to take away the money from your life? Would you rather do a roof or a trip abroad? Which is it? So really understand what you're doing. And also the people in your neighborhood who you said some of them are isolated. Is that a life? Is that what you should be doing?
Right. Yeah. Big questions. Be sure to look up Penelope's books online. If you type on her name in Amazon, it'll bring them up. And take the time. So you have is it 2 books or 3?
It's good.
3 books. You want to name each one of them? They can I'll put them in the chat too.
One always likes to talk about our children. Wealthy Choices, the 7 competencies of financial success. And that's the one of little mini stories that clients brought to me. And then I talk about how they might address those issues. The second one is long-term care insurance, how to decide what's right for you. And that came, as I said, because of my mom's dementia. And then the last one, the most recent book, is Your Home Sweet Home, how to decide whether you should stay or move in retirement. And it's even-handed. It's not my asking you to do either to stay or to move. But the last chapter urges you to understand you must make a decision. It is your legacy to make a decision. It tells us that you are a person of courage, of integrity, of an imagination. So saying, I'm going to wait until I fall. I'm going to wait until I'm sick. I'm going to wait until I'm frail. Please don't do that. Please.
No, the planning stages begin now. Yeah, right. Or should have been. Probably for many, should have been long before now, but now is better than then.
That's
yeah.
great.
Penelope, it's wonderful to be able to have this time with you, and just I support you if you want to reach out to me if you would like any other interviews coming up. And my hat's off to you in this time when everything's changing in our world.
And help those people get their thoughts out. You're doing the right thing. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Take good care of you.